Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, in the session today, I want to introduce a book entitled Taman Budiman, Memoirs of an Orthodox Civil Servant, written by Dato Mubin Sheppard. This is the cover of the book. This book was written was printed and published with, let me check. The publisher is Heinemann Educational Book Asia Limited, first printed in 1979 by Photocom Service Kuala Lumpur and printed by Art Printing Works Kuala Lumpur. This book is about 278 pages, including the index. Maybe not many would be interested in this book, but it has value here, because this is an autobiography. Autobiography means the person himself wrote about him, as opposed to biography. Biography is somebody write about you. Okay, now this guy, Tan Sri Dato Mubin Sheppard, he's a British. So he came to Malaya at that time, January 1928, as cadet in the Malayan Civil Service at that time. The present one, we term it as Pegawai Takbir dan Diplomatik. So he joined the Malayan Civil Service in 1928. Imagine, very, very early. Okay. Now he started off as a assistant district officer in one of the districts in Pahang, is Merlo. And he described here the system at that time. The district officer, his boss was a British, and then at the federal level, all are British people. There were no Malays or no local people except the one as clerks or as laborers or as cooks. What is interesting about this Tan Sri Dato Mubin Sheppard was that he was an administrator. He was ADO and ADO. But when war came in 1943, when the first bomb was dropped, 8 December 1943, he joined the armed forces, the British armed forces. Can you imagine that? In this book, he said, at that time, they know that the Japanese are coming, but they don't know when actually. So war is coming. So the British government at that time chartered 2 aeroplanes and encouraged all government servants and their wives and families to go back to England. But he chose not to go back. There were a few more district officers who joined him to stay. Can you imagine that? He wanted to stay. Not only that, he wanted to fight along with the other British forces and the Malay Askar Melayu and all that, to fight against the Japanese. So that is one quality that is very evident here. Now, of course, he suffered during the Japanese time, the 3.5 years. Then after that, he remained in Malaya, even continue fighting against the communist terrorists during the 12-year emergency years, 1948 to 1960. He was in the thick of things, and it's all recorded here. To me, it's fantastic. I don't think we have about 1.6 million government servants now. Maybe if you say half graduates, or maybe 25% are graduates, do you think any of them would keep records? I didn't. Detailed records of his daily life and what he does. For instance, in the beginning here, he even wrote about his trip up the Pahang River to go and collect rents. And then he mentioned here, most people pay rent like 50 cents, 60 cents. But there are some who cannot pay and will give telur ayam or chicken eggs. But he's a very honest guy, and very dedicated. Of course, after that he went to serve in the Selangor and Perak. One thing here I discovered, what he said was, all the staff, the clerical staff in the district office in Perak were mostly Indians, you know. So, but then he found out that it's like a cartel. When there are vacancies, they block, especially the Malays. There are Malays who applied. So he mentioned here, there was a post vacant of an office boy, and the Indians club recommended an Indian boy. But of course, he stepped in and then put in the Malay guy in. And then he went on, even after retiring, he served the nation. He became, he served as a committee member of the veteran association and helped to even build Wisma Pahlawan. And then the government bestowed him with Dato-ship and Tan Sri. Just, I think this is good, and because the government recognized his contribution to the country. I think if you want to have a good example of a good civil servant, this is the book. I haven't seen any book of this nature yet, but of course there are a present one written by some top government servants since the 1960s, but I think this one, but they all look pale if you look, compare it to this book. I think that's about all. I don't know whether this is still, what do you call that, in print, but it is a good book for reference. Sekian, terima kasih.